idea that like what we're living through now is chapter like 30 of white supremacy, the fight for white supremacy on the soil, right? You understand, oh my gosh, I think it's possible they're trying to ignite the race war, which has always been like the wet dream, if I can say that. I'm so sorry,
Yeah,
radio
no,
audience, but it's been
that's
the
fine.
wet dream of the white Christian nationalist, white supremacist part of this movement, which has been so normalized.
We're ready. We're prepared. Do not give in to fear. We are fearless. This is not the time to be afraid. This is a time to stand up and fight back and to resist any temptation for them to divide us. We're in this together. The rule of law is on our side. We will not give in, not give up. We will not capitulate. We will not bow. We will not bend. We will survive.
We all knew, like I knew what was going to happen, but I knew in 2015 that it was important to primary Donald Trump because I also knew the cult of personality that he was. Working in New York for 16 years at the New York Daily News, I understood him being inculcated into our psyche through rap music and other places, that he was deified in ways that most of us couldn't even imagine was going to happen. But here we are. I knew if he got through the primary, he would win. And I was telling people it was about the Supreme Court. F. Hillary, I don't think she's a great person, but she's not horrible either. She's part of the system that does need to be dismantled on some level. But the pain, and then we had a pandemic, and I was right. All right. And then we had the 3 Supreme Court seats that then overturned Roe v. Wade and a whole bunch of, we're about to lose our civil rights and all of that. I knew that was coming. And that's for life, right? This time I was like, y'all not gonna make it impossible for it. Like, he caused an insurrection. I feel like there was such a failure. Like, nobody who promoted an insurrection should be able to run for president. I'm like, what are y'all doing? They had the January 6th commission, but nothing came out of it that made this impossible. So once it was possible, you almost made him Teflon, and everything went away. He got convicted 34 times and still got to be president. Like, it's crazy to me. And now we're in fascism, full out.
Yep.
Got whole cities. So, Rachel, where does it hurt to hit? Where can we hit them now that it'll even hurt?
Yeah, boy, there's a lot going on there. You and I have lived the same timeline so I'm surprised like I have any hair left, I don't know how I have it. It's the only thing I got left. Watching this inevitable train, understanding, I think, the roots of racism in this country, right? And then, now that what I've been working on lately is really looking back to the lost cause. How in the hell did we come out of Reconstruction and then, end up naming federal military bases after traitors who tried to destroy, right? And, it got me to thinking how we're actually just in one. We've been in one book this whole time since the very beginning, since 1619, okay? But, and each of these things that we thought were discrete events were chapters building in this book. We made a mistake. In Germany, not immediately, it took like 20 years, but in Germany after the Holocaust, their whole government was geared to like shaming Nazism. Okay.
That's right. That's right.
Our government became geared towards worshiping, enslaving insurrectionists. Okay. And, then we see it happen again. I mean, my goodness, I was just watching Chuck Grassley, who is, for the audience's benefit, a Republican senator from Iowa, complaining how the FBI had so many Republican members of the Republican Party, under wiretaps or surveillance while they investigated the giant party-wide coup plot that they tried to do, which we call the fake electors plot, right? And Trump would have been convicted, by the way, on all of the charges had he ever faced a court, not just those 34, right, that were from this civil New York case. But the evidence was so incontrovertible in all of those cases. So, if we get a chance out of the ruins of whatever's coming, because I've told people, don't follow me if you just need hopium, because I'm not a hopium person. Okay. I'm a reality based person. And the moment that Donald Trump re-won election, I said, look, our option range is now uncertain enough where I can't see the future, which bugs me, but I can tell you it will range from terrible to catastrophic. Those are our options
Wow.
now. So, like when you say, how do we hit them where it hurts? Well, it's easy for me, white liberal lady in Eugene, Oregon. I mean, even though we've got our own eight,
I said Portland. Portland
yeah, they're
is
coming
yeah.
for us, right? To talk about but who's the front lines of the militarization of the cities? It's people of color. It's our Black communities and our Latino communities that are primarily going to literally take a bullet for our shitty strategy or our crappy strategy on in 2024. And you can't help but think like what he wants the Black community to react. I think that they were talking this press conference that Stephen Miller, who is a White House senior advisor and just a raging fascist, okay, he gave a press conference about the deployments in Memphis. And he said said, well, if you think your guys you have no idea what we're capable of, right? And honestly, when you go back to that lost cause and this idea that like what we're living through now is chapter like 30 of white supremacy, the fight for white supremacy on the soil, right? You understand, oh my gosh, I think it's possible they're trying to ignite the race war, which has always been like the wet dream, if I can say that. I'm so sorry, radio
Yes, no,
audience, but it's been
that's
the
fine.
wet dream of the white Christian nationalist, white supremacist part of this movement, which has been so normalized since I haven't been here since the Kirk assassination, which of course was bad, okay? But it's become so normalized. And the guy who created that ideology, Richard Spencer, he said, I'm thinking if I dress up in a suit and a tie and a nice white smile, I can normalize white nationalism. Okay. That was 2017 in
Yes.
Charlottesville. And you
Yep.
can't look at Charlie Kirk getting honored even at 6 NFL stadiums and not realize he was right. Okay. He was
Okay.
right. They have mainstreamed it. So,
So why
what
didn't
we're
you
in
know?
now is
Why didn't you know that? Because you brought up Nazi Germany, which
right.
they outlawed the swastika. They did all of the things, but fascism is back there as well.
It is.
But here's the truth that we don't teach is that the Nazis studied American Jim Crow laws. Apartheid, those Boers that call themselves Afrikaners, which is a bastardization of being an African, study the Jim Crow laws. America, the United States, had 400 years to perfect the level of racism and
Yeah.
apartheid that we are seeing globally now, right? So why did you not? I absolutely understood that people would, Obama said, cling to their guns and their Bibles, but underneath that was whiteness, and he couldn't say what he really wanted to say, and he got in enough trouble for saying that, right?
Yes, he did.
But it's
Yeah.
really about the whiteness. And Oregon is
Yeah.
one of the few states, Oregon, I think in New Hampshire, where you
Yeah.
can have a preponderance of white people who absolutely understand that we have
Yeah.
self-segregated, but we not with this bull crap.
Yes, that's exactly right. Well, Oregon's lily white, right? It's still
Yeah.
maintaining somehow voting for Democrats, which says something about the white people here, but it doesn't change the fact the reason why Oregon is so white is because we made it illegal to even be black in Oregon until the late 1860s, right? So when
Say
you ask
more.
me, like I've known this whole time, right? Because I teach political behavior and there's a lot of political science books that you guys would find probably too wonky, but it talks about this issue, this referring theme. And the first time that it really hit me was I mean, in the polarization scholarly community that I come from, which is a pretty small group of academics. A tremendous piece of literature came out, and it was called White Identity Politics, and it was about how they have used the browning of America because America's become diverse, right? And if it was left to go, I think in the future we might not even have like race, right? Like everyone will be so mixed that there won't be. But the truth is, we are all already come from Africa, like in our DNA. We're all from the same place, right? So, like I think that the problem is when that browning happened and you had that propaganda capabilities that I talk so much about through the digital revolution, through the rise of a new medium that can get directly to people's heads, and that of course is the internet and social media and YouTube and Twitter. Like now what we are seeing and we're living through is their last effort to prevent that reality. And they've wanted to prevent it for years, but in the people who are in power now are, that's their direct life goal. Like they're none of the people serving in our government now would ever have been appointed, as bad as George W. Bush was. And he obviously didn't care about Black people because of Katrina, right? We all know that. But even then, he would never have put one single one of his cabinet members in charge of our government, right? So now we're in a real pinch. And as I was telling white progressives when I was trying to get them to be mean for the 2 years before 24 with this book, I'm like, listen, it's not like I'm asking you to be mean. How painful. Okay, we're asking our Black folks to be on the front line of a martial law situation. That's painful, right? And I tried to get them to recognize, like, we can't afford to screw this up because the groups that we claim in this paternalistic, to some of your audience, way to care so much about marginalized groups, right? The people who pay the check for Trump is those people. Not, they'll come for me eventually, but it's the front line is going to be, Memphis. I'm not familiar with Memphis enough to know the areas of the city, but they're coming for Black neighborhoods. They're coming for Latino neighborhoods. They just took a building in Chicago full of Black and brown and Black people. And I'm not even kidding. They arrested everyone in the building, put handcuffs on them until they proved through background check for the citizens that they had no outstanding warrants, okay? And then for the people that were illegally, including the children, they led them out zip-tied. And I just covered on my show that a woman on the scene says, "Look at these children, what are you doing?" The ICE agent said, F you, kid, to the kids. He said he didn't care about kids. I mean,
and at the same time, we have to be careful because in this era of misinformation, there was an image going around of a little toddler in a zip tie, and that's not from this particular thing. So we have to be pristine, unfortunately, in this morass that we find ourselves in. But I wanna bang on this because the narrative of the 13%. The 13%, that's a slur for Black people, by the way, because they say we're 13% of the population, but make up 52% of the crime. But they never talk about the 50% of the exonerations. They never talk about that. And they never talk about the 100% of the targeting of Black neighborhoods. So you don't go to NYU's campus to look for drugs, but you'll find them there if you did. But
you find good drugs.
Good drugs. But you go to Black and brown neighborhoods because you're targeting us. But we don't have that narrative because it feeds something in them. I want to play a clip, and Rachel, I hope you can stick around, from Dr. Joy DeGruy. She talks about transatlantic slave trauma and racism in this country. She was teaching a class and she broke down racism, which I think is so powerful. We need to have this language in our souls. Smith, play this.
One of the things that I do is I try to help people get a picture of what I mean by racism. So tell me how it is. The first category is white racism, then we'll deal with Black racism. So white racism. Tell me the ways in which white racism adversely impacts the lives of Black people. Just what are the ways that white racism can adversely impact the lives of Black people as a group? What are some of those ways? I'm sorry? Power, but how is that defined specifically? Education, okay. I'm sorry? Economically, employment. What else? Housing, what else? Policing. Why are we here today? Healthcare, okay. Now, we can actually kind of grow that list. Now we're going to move over to Black racism. Tell me the ways in which Black racism adversely impacts the lives of white people as an entire group. Thank you. The reason why you become silent, there's one that always comes up, and that's fear. White people are afraid of Black people. Yeah. They're afraid of us. And it's a very interesting thing because Black people know it. We know white people are afraid, but you have to start getting into the psychology. What are you afraid of? Why are you afraid? But it's an interesting dynamic. Now, also you see the difference in what racism is, do you not? Racism implies you have not just prejudice, but the power to do something with that prejudice. Now, I don't like you, not only that, but I'm going to control whether you can get, I may say I hate you. I hate white people. I hate them. It's not going to change you getting that, loan when you go to the bank. I can hate you all the way to the bank. Not going to change. Do you see the difference? That whereas white racism says, not only do I not like you, but I'm going to change the impact of where you can live. I'm going to determine with that racism where your powers are. You following me? And I'm talking about as a group, not an individual, because people said, I remember when my uncle didn't. I'm not talking about your uncle. I'm talking about the whole group. I'm not talking about an incident. That's the difference.
How do we get that, Rachel? Let's talk about that, because I do believe that this is where, for some reason, this race thing, and you're right, the fever dream or the wet dream is a race war. Charlie Manson killed Sharon Tate to start a race war. We've had time and time again from Susan Smith putting her babies killing her babies and blaming a black person for carjacking, to the guy Charles Stewart on that bridge in Boston saying his pregnant wife was stabbed and the baby killed by a black man, and they rounded up black people. There have been these iterations throughout time, but now we have an actual racist fascist in office who can deploy the military and start this thing that they've been, what's the outcome? Let's talk about it. What do you want to see happen if this quote unquote race war? You want to wipe the planet of your DNA?
We're ready. We're prepared. Do not give in to fear. We are fearless. This is not the time to be afraid. This is a time to stand up and fight back and to resist any temptation for them to divide us. We're in this together. The rule of law is on our side. We will not give in, not give up. We will not capitulate. We will not bow. We will not bend. We will